Agencies Drinking Beer is brought to you by Proposify, software that helps you deliver beautiful proposals in the cloud and close more deals.
Welcome to the first episode of Season 2 of Agencies Drinking Beer. On today's show, we're going to be talking to Jeremy Wright from AgencySUMO on how to grow an agency. Hello there.
Hello there.
We're back, just when you thought we were gone forever.
Happy New Year, everyone.
We're back to haunt your dreams.
Yes, we are.
And we have taken it up a notch, haven't we?
New equipment.
New equipment.
It's like Christmas here.
I feel like compared to this, we were just using like tin cans for, headphones before. And
Don't give away our secrets.
Just the worst equipment. We actually even have a room right now.
And condenser mics.
Oh, wow. And we have a little switchboard. We're going to...
Switchboard, yeah, mixer.
Whatever, switchboard.
Same smell.
I call it switchboards.
I think of the old ladies,
Yeah. We have a team of old ladies handling our switchboard for this podcast. Well, it's a new year.
Yes. We're gonna definitely between the content and the equipment, be ready.
We're ready.
Yes.
Okay, so last week I published a blog post called 7 Activities Business Owners Should Do Every Day.
Saw that.
Now, the reason I kind of wrote this was because it's obviously the new year and we're thinking about where we want to take the business. We had a great year last year. We had incredible growth. We're at 1,700 customers now compared to less than 100 or something we had at the beginning of last year. So we've grown really quick. And so now as we grow the team, it becomes more important for us as founders to kind of look at what can we do every day to help, grow and shape the business. Back in the early days or back when we were a small team, it's like, you kind of do everything. Like, well, you still mail out T-shirts, but we have Proposify T-shirts, but poor Kevin mails them out.
It's okay.
No, but like, when it's early on, you're kind of have your heads in everything. You're doing every task from big stuff to little stuff.
Big time.
And as the team grows, you kind of work yourself, you hire yourself out of jobs. So now it becomes more important to look at how do you spend your time each day growing the business. So I came up with 7 ideas, and I'd love to get your thoughts on them.
Real quick, though, can we hire someone to wash the toilets? I'm getting kind of tired of that one.
No, I'm sorry. That's the job of a chief operating officer. A CTO, Chief Toilet Officer.
Yes, that too.
That's going to be Jonathan's job from now on. Yeah, I think we can do that.
Okay, good.
So here, with no further ado, here are the 7 tips, and feel free to jump in, Kevin, and disagree. I like that. Customer development, I think, is something that founders, even as you grow and you have people doing things, you should always be doing as a founder, is customer development.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Great. So how do we do customer development? Well, I would say phone calls and emails are the best way to do it. So what we do is we have an automatic email that goes out when new customers or new users sign up for trials, where we ask them why they signed up. And so what we started doing is taking those responses and posting them in Slack in its own channel called Customer Development. And what that kind of does is it gives us and the whole team like a library in a way, or like a repository of customers brand new signing up saying, here's why I signed up. And so we can take that language and use it to shape, future copy on websites and on the website that sells, the product.
That plays into when you asked what customer development is. It's about really listening, and that's part of that. We're listening and we're recording what people are saying.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep, it's important.
Yeah, and sometimes we post the negative feedback too, because I think that's important. Sometimes we get mad or like angry when people post criticism or they don't like the product or
they use Twitter instead of go on to the the queue.
Yeah, well, that's annoying too. Public shaming.
Yeah,
but we had actually somebody once emailed us and just said, "You offer SEO proposal templates? That's so 2014."
I remember that.
We're like, okay, what? So my point is that the good thing about negative feedback from customers is that it also shows you who isn't your customer. So, people who just aren't the right fit for you. The more you kind of listen to those people and see who they are, what kind of companies are they running, and who are they in that company, it kind of also shows you who not to focus your marketing on, and also, of course, how to make the product better if it is legitimate criticism. The other thing that is harder to do, it's very easy to get caught up in the weeds of just day-to-day stuff, but it's thinking about big picture stuff. So I use the famous quote by Wayne Gretzky. You know that one? Of course you do. You're a coach.
I know lots of them. Which one's
this? The one about the puck, seeing where the puck's going to be.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He said, "I skate to where the puck is going to be, not where it's been."
Absolutely.
Which is a great metaphor for business of not, looking ahead and trying to figure out where things are going to go and where you want your company to be in a year. We just talked to Jeremy, who you'll hear in a few minutes, and he essentially said the same thing for agencies, which is they don't think about even a year from now where they want to be. They just kind of focus on being reactive right now. So, kinds of questions you should maybe ask yourself on a regular basis and sort of spend some time on your own or talking with your partner on is like, what kind of company do we want to build? Is there holes in the market that none of our competitors are thinking about? Should we be going after a new industry, or should we be doubling down on what's working now? So there's no right or wrong answer to those questions, but it's important to ask them on a regular basis.
Big time.
Learning, of course, is important. Sharpening your skill sets, keeping up on blogs and books and that sort of thing.
You're good at that.
Yeah, it's important.
That's one of your major strengths.
Well, I mean, there's smart people out there, and they're sharing their thoughts. So, so it's what I find is hard is just filtering the noise, because there's so much stuff out there. You don't have, there's no time in the day to read everything that's out there. So I use an app called Pocket to save articles, and then I just quickly scan them. And if this seems like, top 10 ways to get, to enhance your social media profile or something, I usually just skip them. But every now and then there's some good gems that can shape the way you think and share them with your team.
You're an enabler, because you've enabled me to have to do that. You just find the good stuff and then send it on. I just kind of sit back.
I'm your curator.
Yes, you are.
And actually, we use Slack for that as well. We have a channel called Resources where we post things like that. Books are important too. I admit I'm very bad at reading books. I like actual paper books. But there's one I'm reading now called Things a Little Bird Told Me, Confessions of the Creative Mind, and it's written by Biz Stone, one of the co-founders of Twitter. And it's kind of cool because I'm not very far into it, but without getting too off track, he talks about he's not actually an engineer or a coder. He got hired at Google when his friend Evan did, and they didn't know what he did. Like, the people vetting him for the interview, like, what do you do? And he's just like, I make products more human. And they're like, okay, what does that mean? So he's just kind of a scrappy dude who kind of creates his own opportunities. So I'm excited to dig through that. Fourth one is building authority through content. I think it's extremely important, as a founder of a company, to share your knowledge with the world and build authority, because obviously it can help your business grow as well.
The Groove's a great example of that.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah. Alex Turnbull from Groove
Yeah.
has done amazing things with that business. Primarily, I mean, obviously it's a great product too, but through sharing their knowledge and expertise. One you're very good at is nurturing relationships. As you grow, relationships become really, really key. And, sometimes it's people who can help bring you customers, but other times it's like somebody like Ben, for instance. I just saw an email from Ben. Ben Yoskovitz is on our board of directors, and when you get high caliber people like that, that you can only really do that through building relationship over time. It doesn't just come overnight, you know. And people you're talking to, and from the investment side, and just ongoing.
Oh yeah, it's not just customers; it's the whole business, the whole gamut. Yeah.
I was not influencers, but partnerships as well, like channel partnerships. Right. We've been working with Infusionsoft down in Arizona, talking to them a lot. I don't know if we should give that away, if that's a trade secret or not, but that's important. The number 6 was investing in your people. So there's this great meme on the internet. I don't know who originally wrote it, but it says the CFO asked the CEO, what happens if we invest in developing people and they leave us? And the CEO says, what happens if we don't and they stay? So I thought that was kind of cool because it's essentially that price guy we talked about in the interview. He would be saying, don't invest in your people. That costs money. And what if they leave? You've wasted all that money. And it's like, if you don't invest in people and they stay, they're going to do more damage to your business because they haven't grown at all.
Exactly. It's a good call.
So one thing that we started doing, we didn't really start doing it, but we got a little bit more regimented at it, is actually reviewing employees. I always hated doing employee reviews because, it just feels like you're judging them or something. Like you think, oh, they don't want that, but actually we found they do.
They do. Yeah, like you said, I always thought, they're not going to want that, but they love it. Because really, let's face it, we have a great team, so they're all getting pats on the back anyway.
Yeah. And every now and then there's not criticism, but I guess constructive criticism where you say, like, you're kind of weaker in this area, you're great in this area, but in this area you could use some work. And it's, I don't know, I think they enjoy the feedback. And it gives them a challenge to work towards.
People don't want surprises, too. They want to know if there's something they need to improve before it gets too late. Oftentimes people don't communicate, especially owners, and next thing you know, you're out the door. Well, wait a minute, you need to give me a chance, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. Yeah. And even part of just investing in employees is really just spending time with them. And I guess that probably gets harder as the companies get bigger. When you're in Infusionsoft and you're hundreds of people, how do the founders even know who everybody is?
Even us. I mean, think about when it was just the four of us.
Yeah.
Or the 3 or 4 of us, and we were going out every Friday to have our meetings, and we were getting tight. I mean, we're tight with our team now. It's still a smaller team, but I can see how it's going to be challenging as we move forward.
Finally, growth. Growth is, we had this really exciting year where we grew quickly, but we're still at I guess, in a sense, an earlier stage when you compare it to, say, bigger companies. But growth is just one of those things that we need to be very, methodical about and spend a lot of time thinking. It's easy to grow, 2,000% when you have one customer, Yeah. 20 extra customers, there you go, 2,000% growth. But, once you start getting into the thousands of customers, maintaining that growth is difficult. So, obviously we can get specialists involved to help with that stuff, but I think it's something that founders should always have top of mind is how are we going to grow?
Yeah, with our business model now, it's so much easier for us because we have MRR. But think about with an agency, if you're an agency, you have to continuously bring in new business and fill that funnel up. Not that we don't want to do that, but yet we have the luxury of having MRR. And I know a lot of agencies do have retainer-based models and whatnot, but a lot don't. We didn't have a lot of retainers when we had the agency. Yeah. And it was challenging to keep growing.
I would almost say it's essential for an agency to have retainers because that is really MRR in a sense. It is. ARR if they're annual retainers. But there's the Cool Partners who we've had a few times, the 2 different founders on the show, and they switched from going to completely retainer-based, and it's done incredible things for their business. They've been able to actually grow because you're compounding your revenue on top of each other. So speaking of growth, that's our topic for discussion with Jeremy Wright. He's going to talk about growing your agencies. So let's jump into the interview with Jeremy. I'd like to welcome Jeremy Wright to the podcast. Jeremy started and sold, just to kind of give you a little recap of all the awesome stuff Jeremy's been doing. He started and sold B5, the 3rd largest social media company in the world. He's been the VP of Digital at Match Marketing and has worked with big brands like Pepsi, Heinz, and Subway. He published the first social media marketing book in 2005. And now Jeremy's the founder of AgencySUMO, which is a company that specializes in helping agencies grow. Thank you so much for being on the show, Jeremy.
No, it's my pleasure. It's very cool to be the first guest for season 2, so thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah. just starting off on a high note. It took me a little while at going through your bio. I was just trying to find out, trying to narrow down all the highlights to share. You've done a lot in your career, and wow, I mean, it's pretty incredible what you've done the last 10 or so years.
I think it's thank you, thank you. And it's one of those things. Like I started at like 14, and I didn't go to university, so I've been doing this stuff for 22 years now, right? And it's been a journey. It's been very cool.
I mean, so you run AgencySUMO, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. But it's from just reading up on you, it sounds like you've taken all this experience from these past companies that you've either started or been in leadership roles at, and now you're kind of helping other agencies get to that same level through education, through courses, through content. So maybe just give the listeners a little quick elevator pitch of what AgencySUMO is all about.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reality is that most agencies are started by people who, really just want to do great work. Either they tumbled into it because they were freelancers and got bigger and bigger projects, or they, worked at an agency and, wanted to go off on their own and have some creative freedom. And very few people who run agencies or start agencies have any kind of business or marketing or strategy background. And so they want to do great work, and they have all this bullshit, pardon my French, every day that slows them down, whether it's, marketing, or it's customer acquisition, or it's account management, or it's scope creep, or it's whatever. And really there's all these speed bumps that get in the way. And it's my job to kind of flatten those speed bumps a little bit, whether it's through kind of coaching or through templates or through reviewing pitch decks before they go out, or kind of whatever that's kind of stopping that agency from getting to where they really want to be.
I was in that same position because I was a designer who worked at agencies, and then, going freelance, and then Kevin and I starting our own agency. I was in exactly that same position you talk about, just like learning as I go, no business experience, not even a lot of college except for design. So I completely, I can see how there would be a lot of similar people in that same position they just want to do good work, but to actually grow a business, you need to know a lot more. And unfortunately, there's a lot of trial and error, and sometimes you fail before you even get to that point where you can learn the right way to grow, right?
Yeah, and most agencies do fail before they get to the point where they're truly self-sustaining, right? You're churning projects, you're churning clients, you're churning staff, and it's really hard to find the time to sit back and go, what's working, why is it working, or why is it not working, right? And, having someone who can go, okay, I can step in and tell you exactly what's going on, calm down, this is normal. And for a lot of clients, hearing that their challenges are normal is like a real kind of sigh of relief, right? It's like, okay, this has happened before. We can get through this. It's okay, right? Yeah. It's a bit like being a therapist sometimes. So.
Yeah, because whenever you have that, cash flow's bad, or you don't know how you're going to make payroll, you kind of internalize that and go like, why is it, why is everybody else successful running these types of businesses and I just can't seem to do it?
Yeah. And hearing that everyone else struggles the same way can sometimes be a real eye-opener, right? Mm-hmm. And, giving someone, here's 3 things we're going to work on this week, and they're going to help is good. It's nice. It's for me, it's really fulfilling because you get to help a bunch of companies get to where they wish they could be. So it's like being a mentor. It's fun.
What's that? Sorry?
It's like being a mentor. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I want to ask a question, but I guess to kind of back that up a little bit. When Kevin and I first started Headspace back in, 2008?
2008 we incorporated,
yeah.
Yes.
We actually, we didn't have very lofty goals. We actually wanted to keep it really small. Our kind of idea was to just run it out of our individual homes, just work remotely. I mean, we didn't even really want to hire anybody at the beginning. And so then growth kind of happened by accident. We got busy with a lot of projects. We needed more support. We didn't want to just sub it out to freelancers. So then we hired our first person and then our second person. And it just kind of spiraled out of control in a way. So our growth wasn't very strategic or directed. We were very, in a reactive state for a lot of it. But do you see a lot of other agencies who are in that similar boat, who aren't saying like, we never wanted to be a 50-person agency, let alone 100 or have hundreds of employees. How does that work for the agencies that you're talking to? your clients? Is growth happening by accident, or do they just get to a certain point and get stuck?
It's more typically by accident. I mean, we talk about growing agencies, and the reality is that it's more about, what do you want your agency to be in the ideal situation, right? And most people are like you guys, where they want to get to 5 or maybe 7 people doing really, really great work they're really, really proud of. Very few people want to get to, 200 or 500 person agencies. Some do, and that's fine, but most just want to do really great work. And they've kind of stumbled into the agency stuff, they've stumbled into projects, and now they're going, okay, I've got staff, I have overhead, I need to get new clients. Right now, it doesn't matter what kind of client it is, as long as they're paying the bills and I'm paying my staff, right? And this becomes very quickly this death spiral of very reactive, non-strategic, we do anything, therefore your brand's really messy out there in the public space, your clients don't really know what you're great at. It's this really weird kind of death spiral where you're always just churning work you're not proud of,
Yeah, it sounds familiar. And then sometimes people come to you for services you don't even offer, and you're like, yeah, sure, we'll find somebody who does video editing, post-production.
Yeah, and all agencies do that by their very nature, right? You're on a client, you've got 80% of the skills, you can somehow, hopefully, maybe find the other 20%, so you pitch the business, right? Even bigger shops do that, so it's quite normal. It's just a bit more stressful when, your smaller shops get less time, get less respect from clients, and it's a lot more stressful to go out and find that one skill set quickly, right?
I mean, it's one thing to have a small agency that's a handful of people, or say 5-10 people, that seemed to be fairly manageable. Even that had its challenges. But once you start getting into the bigger numbers, like 20, 50, 100 people, what needs to change for the founders or the owners of that agency? What are the agencies that have grown to that stage? What are they doing differently, assuming they're profitable and they're not, bleeding money? What are they doing that's different that the smaller guys just can't get there?
Well, I think it's probably a couple of big things. The first is that big agencies understand what we call agency math, right? Which is everything from why you're billing specific hourly rates to why you're paying specific people things to minimum billable hours and tracking and how many hours to spend on a pitch and, how to know if a pitch is all these agency math things help ensure that big agencies typically don't fail. So most agencies that get past the 50th point have to develop systems that ensure they're basically profitable. They don't tend to take on one big account that pays 80% of the bills. They're very diversified. They've got a lot of different skill sets, and so their risk profile goes down. But at the same time, their need for big work goes up, right? And so they're really great at the process side of things. And the nice thing is that you can take those same tools and apply them to a smaller agency, right? And one of the big things we do talk about is agency math. So knowing how much time to invest in a pitch, knowing if the pitch is profitable for you as an agency or not. A lot of agencies just lose money pitching. You go after everything and you spend 5-10 hours on each one, and sometimes you'll do creative work, sometimes you'll do some strategy or research, and you end up winning 1 in 5, 1 in 10, 1 in 20 pitches, and all those hours together are worth less than the business you just won, And so a lot of the lessons big agencies have work really well for small shops. And then on the staffing side, they do a much better job typically of ensuring that, projects work well, that clients understand what the scope is, that there's penalties for being late, all this kind of stuff in terms of training clients. And I think a lot of the times the issues we have with clients are that we haven't trained them very well on how to be good clients. So we let them walk all over us. We let them dictate, bad proposal timelines or bad execution timelines. And we never really lead them or train them in a good way. So bigger agencies tend to be better at that because they can spot unprofitable accounts much faster.
Do you think that they're also helped by having more members of their team that are specialized when it comes to operations? I'm thinking, if I just finished watching Mad Men. I was kind of late to the party on that, but I finished the whole season 7 of Mad Men, and I think of Price. I can't remember the character's first name. He's the British partner, and when he came in and he's just clearing house and laying people off and figuring how they can save money on staplers, and he's just a total accountant. But he's one of the partners, whereas you got Draper, who's the creative guy who just doesn't think about that stuff. To get to that stage, you need a Price in there who's just, just completely taking a calculator to everything?
It can work. Having, run big teams of, a couple hundred people and having had that kind of guy come in from a senior standpoint, it can be great, right? If you've got a good relationship. And the reality is agencies are built by people, right? So if you've got a good relationship and you trust that guy and you know that you're all working towards the same goal, it can be valuable. But the reality is that sometimes that can destroy accounts. It can, move the wrong resources around. It can, lose client confidence, and client confidence is everything, right? And so, yeah, it can be great, and it can institute some real good operational stuff and processes and whatever, but it can also destroy a team's culture, and that could lose you Pepsi, right?
Yeah.
So it's always a bit of both, right? And when we talk about agencies growing past the 25, 50 person mark, you do need different tools, different processes. You need some specialized skills. You do need someone who understands operations and business. That guy might end up being the managing director, might not, but you need someone who understands that, who can spot the issues. That doesn't have to mean it's like, some guy walking out with a hatchet, chopping things off, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And somebody, I guess, what are your thoughts on an agency owner who wants to be profitable and live a great life, but not necessarily grow people? Because, we all know that scaling agencies are inherently more difficult than, say, software startups, because it's easier to scale technology than it is adding heads to your payroll. So, I mean, what if an agency owner just wants to improve their business and become more profitable? Do you think is growing people absolutely essential? How would you advise somebody in that?
So it kind of comes down to, what you want your agency to be when it grows up, right? And so if you want your agency to be, very few staff, lower overhead, higher quality projects, more creative strategy research work, which you can go at a higher rate, then yeah, you can. The flip side is, one of my clients just transitioned from hourly through project work into point-based work, which I find really interesting, because every agency wants to do, value-based billing, right? Because our work is worth more, and if clients just paid us more, we could do better quality work, is the theory, right? In practice, it ends up being, you're just taking more client money and not doing better work at all. But this point-based thing I thought was really interesting. So basically, we just say, your website's 10 points, we'll add email for 2 points, we'll do marketing automation for 20, and it gives this client a way of perceiving the work and saying, yeah, I can understand how the layers of tech and marketing automation are 3 times more valuable than a website. I can understand how ongoing social content is 5 times more work than deploying email. Like, that kind of math makes sense for clients, and they just have a fee per point, and clients can add features, add services, add whatever, and the discussion of cost hasn't come up once. They did this 3 months ago, and they're earning 3 times more doing the exact same work.
How does that work, though? Do they, in their head, are they translating like 3 points into, is that 3,000? Is that 30,000?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a cost per point, right? So it's $7,000 a point or something silly like that. And so it's they basically done the value-based billing thing, but in a way that's more transparent and recognizable and digestible for clients. And so they're going, yeah, okay, I understand that email is 2 points, therefore it's $14,000, but they're not making that calculation in their head while they're looking at proposals. They're going, yeah, I can understand how this is 3 times more work than that. That makes sense,
Yeah.
And we have a small agency here that's doing a lot of performance-based work, which seems to be working for them, which surprises me. But they've been quite successful with that. What's your opinion on that?
It's risky as hell, and big agencies hate it. Right?
Yeah, these guys are small. So.
No, but it could be incredibly profitable. So one of my clients, all he does is everything's $50 an hour, but to get that $50, it's either a huge cut of the performance or he'll take an equity stake in the clients. And he makes a crap ton of money and almost nothing on the upfront, right? Like, he's just paying his staff salaries, basically doing everything at cost. But then if he knocks it out of the park, he'll make $1 million on an account that would have been $100,000.
Wow.
Wow. And so it can work if you've got a really great team, you're really confident, you can knock it out of the park, because you're basically
fund it.
And big kahuna.
Yeah, you're covering your costs, right? And so you're not getting quite the hourly rates, but your risk profile, as long as you can fund the first year of that, would be my guess, could work really well. But that first year, you're not going to see all that performance-based stuff come in, right? It could take 6 or 9 months for those results and those dollars to start flowing.
Yeah.
So, no, I'm a big fan of the concept. Big agencies hate it, but if you can make it work and you've got the cash flow to sustain the first year of getting those results, and you're actually able to get those results, it's an interesting way of becoming more of a client. I'm doing air quotes, partner, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't have the balls for it, but I can see how some would.
It's a lot of stress, I can imagine.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about retention for a little bit, because I think a challenge we had, and a lot of people we talk to, their challenge is they're doing one-off projects for clients. So they don't, you work hard to get a client. You might have a big project that pays decent money, but then that client's gone and you haven't sold them on a retainer or any sort of ongoing fees. So now you're in a hunt to find the next client. And so when we talk about growth and scaling and adding more people to your team, I mean, what's the best way to approach that so that you don't get into a situation which we all know agencies are famous for, which is get a big account, the client pulls out a year later, and they have to lay off, half of their staff?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few parts to it. I'm always, any client that comes on where they've got more than 30% of the revenue coming from one client, I'm like big red flags, right? The risk profile is so big, and you're really becoming a bit of a slave to that client anyway. But in terms of the transition really from, project work to more stable, predictable, forecastable kind of stuff, that's a huge jump, right? It's really where the magic happens, because big agencies get annual budgets, right? So we got $7 million a year from Pepsi, and for that $7 million, we have to rebuild 7 sites, we have to do CRM, we have to do social, blah, blah, right? But we own that $7 million. For smaller agencies where you're getting 10, 20, 50 grand for websites, the challenge becomes, how do you get more longer-term revenue out of the client? So is that maintenance fees? Is it content updates? The new, easier way of doing it these days is running the marketing automation side. So you're building the site and you're pushing all the content and offers and email and stuff through. And it really comes down to, so for a lot of the kind of mid-sized 10, 15-person agencies, how do you institute services that go beyond just that deliverable, right? Because you're not going to get to retainer models if your client's only spending $100 grand a year, right? And you really wouldn't want to be going, okay, I'm doing, 18 grand a month in revenue. That's not a lot for a single client. And so for most shops, the way the kind of middle point is to add services that go beyond the deliverable. So if you're doing a website, can you do, quarterly reporting? Can you do social content? Can you do research? Can you do strategy? Can you do security and hosting and maintenance? What are the things that your team can bring to the table that turn it from just one project into a project plus a year-long engagement? Even if it's a little bit a month, that's getting the client in the habit of paying you monthly. And one of the clients I just signed yesterday, all they do is take their project work and turn it into an annual retainer. So if it's a $20,000 website, they bill out $1,800 a month, right? And then their job, once they close that client, the annual retainer, is to then start adding services. So every month, they're pinging the client with new ideas, new services, new things to add to bring that retainer from $1,800 to $2,500 to $3,500, so on and so forth, right? And so they take a hit on the kind of upfront profitability, but then they're pounding hard trying to drive that retainer value up through media buying, through social content, through reporting, through whatever, right? And for them, that model works really well because once they close a client, they know they can double that client's account size in a year or two.
So interesting. So there's I guess two different kinds of thought. There is, which I think, from looking at your stuff, you'll probably agree with us that it's important to choose a vertical and go after sort of one industry, or at least know who your perfect client is and not go after everyone. But then there's, other agencies specialize in different ways, which is they might serve a number of industries, but they do one very specific skill and they're the best at it, like whatever that is, the best, like Magento partner or landing page optimization or some very kind of niche specific skill. So in your mind, are you saying it's better to kind of choose one industry or one vertical, but kind of offer a huge plethora of services for them and not kind of just narrow it down to one service?
I think it can go either way. One of the things I'm a huge fan of with agencies actually doing the exercise of saying, what do we do? Like, what are we fundamentally. Are we a web development shop? Are we a creative shop? Are we a video shop? Are we define really specifically what you are and define very specifically who your ideal customer is, what their pain points are, why you're the best for them, and then build all your messaging, marketing, strategy, everything around those clients and go after those clients. So that could be, we go in and we take a small piece of your business and then we're like yeast, we're like a virus. We go and we grow that account over time, like the story we just talked about. Or it could be, we are the absolute best small business video company in the city, and we're going to go out and we're going to show everyone that every single day. We're going to do training, we're going to speak at conferences, we're going to close 5-10 accounts a month, and that's all we do. And we say no to everything else. And I think for agencies, the discipline of saying no is a really hard one to come to, right? But once you define who you are, what you do, and what your clients want from you, you should be saying no to 80% of everything else, because it's not the kind of work you do, it's not the kind of work you're passionate about, and so the quality of your work just won't be there. If you're not loving your work, no matter how hard you try, that quality just won't be there, right? And so saying no to, we're a video shop, so we don't do social content, we don't do web dev, we've got partners we can recommend that'll do that, and we'll get a referral fee, but that's not what we do. We do not touch any of these things. And that helps you get a better reputation. It helps your clients refer the right, future clients in. It helps you hire the right kinds of people. That focus is 80% agency success. So if you haven't done that exercise of saying, this is exactly who we are, exactly who we're going after, and we don't touch anything else, you're churning through work. You have no choice because you're taking whatever someone gives you instead of going out and hunting for the right things that you can add value.
So if you're an agency owner, you need to ask yourself that question. Are we like yeast? Ask yourself. No, you said... Sorry, you said a lot of really brilliant stuff, in the last few minutes, and my mind was just fixated on yeast.
Yeast.
As soon as you said it.
I could have said a virus since we're both a little bit sick, but that seemed less partnery,
Yeah,
we're
pretty impressed, though.
So if one of your clients decides to change their name to like Yeast Media, I'm okay with that,
Ah, that's great.
That's great. Yeah, there you go.
That's nasty. Actually, I wanted to say, I thought that we should, Proposify, we should have an award for like the oddest names for our pricing tiers, because we have like Starbucks, venti and tall and short plans, and what's the other one? Venti, tall, grande. But I think you out us when it comes to pricing tiers. So you have your free plan is Hipster Slim, your medium plan is Dad Bod, and the big plan is Sumo Fat. I don't know. I'd rather be Hipster Slim myself.
I'm Dad Bod.
No, I know it's a metaphor for profitability, but
I get in trouble sometimes from female friends for the Dad Bod one, but yeah.
What's wrong with the Dad Bod?
I've got one, so I don't know. I love it.
Actually, no. Kevin's Hipster Slim.
Yeah, skinny jeans and everything, huh?
Even though I'm in my 50s.
Good genes.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, just gotta...
So turn around slowly.
I just did.
Do you want to, I guess, to kind of wrap it up a little bit, maybe if there's any agencies listening or agency founders, maybe just talk through a little bit more about how AgencySUMO can help and what kind of features and benefits that you guys can offer.
Yeah, so the biggest thing that we're actually just releasing new packages and stuff next week, but basically the biggest value I've found for clients is what we do for onboarding, right? Which is we do that full who we are, what do we do exercise, brainstorm. It's a 90-minute, 2-hour kind of thing. We do a full agency audit, so go through all your tech processes, sales processes, decks, internal systems, everything, and you get a full, 20-page audit at the end that tells you exactly what you need to work on this year, and then we do a full annual planning exercise. Because most agencies don't do annual planning for some reason. They don't treat their agency like a product, and they just kind of, get reactive and churn through work and everything. And so those 3 exercises together basically give you a roadmap on exactly how to grow, how to double revenue this year, all that stuff. So that's kind of the biggest one that we recommend. And then the other side is content. We do release, monthly big guides that tell you exactly how to, close more business or how to manage accounts or whatever. And that includes all the templates and processes and thinking and all that jazz. So those are kind of the two big things that tend to add value for agency founders.
Hey, Jeremy, how big is your team?
2, because, we started 6 months ago. So it's been good.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I mean, any founder out there who likes what Jeremy's saying and wants to check it out, that's AgencySUMO.com, and that link will be in the show notes. We hope you check that out. Jeremy, awesome talking to you. Thanks for sharing your wisdom with us.
Thanks for having me, guys. It was a lot of fun.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay. See you soon.
Later. Bye.
So, great interview with Jeremy.
Right to the point. Really pointed. I liked it.
That's true. I thought you were again telling me to get to the point. I was like, what? What did I do?
No. Jeremy was great.
Yeah. It's true. He's a very good guy. And I have him on Facebook. He always has weird, interesting things to say on Facebook. He's kind of a weird dude. Didn't show a lot in the interviews. Very professional, very composed. But his Facebook posts are very candid, I should say.
Good.
So anyway, we look forward to having more awesome guests on the show. As always, we want your feedback, your suggestions, and if you think you would be a great guest or know somebody who would be, please get in touch with us.
You don't necessarily have to be working with agencies or be an agency. We're open to all different types of businesses and ideas, so please get in touch with us. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, just one that comes to mind is Garrett from Sifter, who started the Sifter bug tracking app, not an agency guy, but a developer, and had a lot of good stuff to share with people. So again, we don't want this to be just agency focused. It's really entrepreneurship and business people and people who do sales as well. I think that's it. Until next time. I don't want to say it again.
Later.
Later.